What is up, everybody? Z3 No Tenenity here. I am with you guys with another Stephen King previews. We got the Bachman books. I'll just do them one at a time. That's what she said. I got the Bachman books, which we all know Stephen King, written under a pseudonym called Richard Bachman. And some of the Bachman books I really do enjoy. Some of them I'm like, meh. But yeah, hopefully you would find a better copy of this. But if you found this in a bookstore, you're just walking by and you're like, what's this? The Bachman books. 4 early novels by Stephen King, with an introduction by the author, Why I Was Bachman. Would you pick this up? Of course you would, because if you're a Stephen King fan, you'd pick it up. But let's just say you didn't know who Stephen King was, and did not know that was a pseudonym for Stephen King. Now, right off the bat, the picture of the book is like a sunset, and it has like a road leading to the sun, basically, and it has skull after skull, like a skull trail all the way through. The art is pretty simple, but simple is usually the best. But right off the bat, the front cover kind of looks really interesting. The only thing, the back of the book is just pure red with these still kind of, I don't really know what kind of color. It's like a cream color. But it's like the name of the cover was Richard Bachman, but the imagination inside could only belong to Stephen King. But of course that part doesn't exist because we don't know who Stephen King is when we pick these up. Yeah, it just lists the 4 books that is in this. We got Rage. A high school show and tell session explodes into a nightmare of evil. And then we got The Long Walk. Only death can keep you from the finish line in the ultimate competition of the all-too-near future. That's pretty interesting. Sounds pretty interesting. Road Work. What happens when one good and angry man fights back is murder, and then some. Now that sounds really interesting. The Running Man. In the year 2025, the best men don't run for president. They run for their lives. That's very interesting, too. The first 2 seemed kind of plain, but the second 2, the way they have it set up here at the back, piques my interest. If I did not know, like everybody, we all know Stephen King is Durr. But pretend like we don't, and you just pick this up and you read these little synopses. Would that be enough for you guys to pick up this book and buy it and want to read it? For me, the first 2 was kind of dull, but the second 2 really does sound very interesting. But let's get into it. We got Rage, which I'm not going to read the endings anymore. A lot of people don't want the ending to be spoiled, and I can respect that. So I'm just going to, for these previews, read just the first sentence and kind of go from there. Chapter 1. This is Rage. The morning I got it on was... Wait. The morning I got it on was nice. A nice May morning. What made it nice was that I'd kept my breakfast down and the squirrel I spotted in Algebra 2. Okay. So he's about to puke, apparently, and he saw a squirrel while he was sitting in Algebra class number 2. I'm going to read a little bit more. I sat in the row farthest from the door, which is next to the windows, and I spotted the squirrel on the lawn. The lawn of Placerville High School is a very good one. It does not fuck around. It comes right up to the... Okay. It comes right up to the building and says, howdy. Howdy ho, so to speak. No one, at least in my 4 years at PHS, has tried to push it away from the building with a bunch of flower beds or baby pine trees or any of that happy horseshit. And I believe that's where I'll stop because that's more than just a sentence. But yeah, was that enough to really like grab onto you guys? Did that little bit that I read kind of pique your interest? For me, I know most stories kind of go slow, but I kind of find like a hint of poetry written in there. Like usually the first few sentences of a story has a hidden meaning. So my guess with that would just be the hidden meaning is the connection that the grass or the lawn, so to speak, that connects with the school, with it being close, is has to do with some kind of connection, but you know, it doesn't really make sense right off the bat. So, does this pique my interest, and would I continue reading it based on the a high school show and tell session explodes into a nightmare of evil? Probably I would, because of the back. That beginning was a little bit meh. I mean, if I kept reading, it might get better. It comes right up to the concrete foundation, and there it grows, like it or not. It is true that 2 years ago, a town meeting, some bag proposed that the town build a pavilion in front of the school, complete with a memorial to honor the guys who went to Placerville High and then got bumped off in one war or another. My friend Joe McKennedy was there, and he said they gave her nothing but a hard way to go. I wish I had been there. The way Joe told it, it sounded like a real good time. 2 years ago, to the best of my recollection, that was about the time I started to lose my mind. Now, see, there is what we needed. That little tidbit at the very end, the time I lose my mind. That is the poetry that I was looking for. So, if you're going to read a book and you don't know anything about the writer or anything like that, give it more like you're in a bookstore and you did exactly what I did. Just picked it up and read the first few sentences. Don't stop there. At least read into it just a little bit, because you might find that there's some gold hidden in there. But yeah, did that make my interest go up more? Yes, it did. Now let's go to the long walk. We'll try to go a little bit faster with this one. Here we go. Chapter 1. Let's see. I'm not sure if that's where it starts. Okay, here we go. An old blue Ford pulled into the guarded parking lot that morning, looking like a small, tired dog after a hard run. One of the guards, an expressionless young man in a khaki uniform, and a Sam Brown belt, asked to see the blue plastic ID card. The boy in the back seat handed it to his mother. His mother handed it to the guard. The guard took it to a computer terminal that looked strange and out of place in a rural stillness. The computer terminal ate the card and flashed this on the screen. Garrity Raymond Davis, RD, and all this information. The guard punched another button and all of this disappeared, leaving the terminal screen smooth and green and blank again. He waved them forward. Don't they give the card back? Miss Garrity asked. Don't they? No, Mom, Garrity said patiently. Well, I don't like it, she said, pulling forward into an empty space. She had been saying it ever since they sat out in the dark of 2 in the morning. She had been moaning it, actually. Now, that's the first legitimate page before going into it. Now, did that really pull your attention? To me, in a way, it does, because you don't know what this guard is all about. Like, why did these people pull up and have to present this blue card to this guard in a khaki suit, and then he just feeds it into a machine for it to just rip apart with ease? And I mean, it does. It kind of sets you up for like, I wonder what this is all about. And based on the description in the back, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a push. Only death can keep you from the finish line in the ultimate competition of all too near future. So competition is the key word. So maybe just by reading that little bit, maybe here that's how you enter this competition, by presenting a blue card. But yeah, that does kind of pull you in a little bit. Not too much though. I'm still waiting on that good poetry. But you got road work here. Let's see where it starts. I guess it starts right here. But Vietnam was over and the country was getting on. On this hot August afternoon in 1972, the WHLM News Mobile was parked near Westgate at the end of Route 784 Expressway. There was a small crowd around a bunting-covered podium that had been hurriedly tossed together. The bunting was thin flesh on a skeleton of naked planks. Behind it, at the top of a grassy embankment, were the highway toll booths. In front of it, open, marshy land stretched toward the suburban hem of the city's outskirts. A young reporter named Dave Albert was doing a series of a man-on-the-street interviews while he and his co-workers waited for the mayor and the governor to arrive for the groundbreaking ceremony. He held the microphone toward an elderly man wearing tinted spectacles. "Well," the elderly man said, looking tremulously into the camera, "I think it's a great thing for the city. We've needed this for a long time. It's a great thing for the city." And so on. "Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Do you think they'll use it on the news tonight?" So yeah, just by this little bit of information, we got 2 other books to kind of go through, so I don't want to take up too much of the time. But just by that, it kind of seems a little weird of these people seeing this mayor guy coming in, doing interviews, all that stuff. And then the back of the book says, "What happens when one good and angry man fights back is murder and then some." That really piques my interest. I think just by that little bit that I would say, in my own opinion, that would be the best story of the book. Obviously, I'm wrong, but because I didn't care for that one. I actually gave it a 1 out of 5 star, 2 out of 10. So, but if you like the story, great. But just by that little bit, it wasn't really enough. And yes, if you do read on, it does pick up, especially right in here. "Would you mind stating your opinion on all of this, Mr. Dawes?" "No, I don't mind." His voice was low, pleasant. "Speed," the cameraman murmured. The man in the white shirt said, still pleasantly, "I think it's a piece of shit." So right off the bat, you got that guy straight up, this is a bunch of horseshit. But if you really give this story a chance, you find that in the next part, he actually goes into a gun store and starts buying all this ammunition and stuff like he's going on a massive war trip. So yeah, it's very interesting, a very interesting story, but it just did not pull through for me. That's why I gave it a low rating. But does it drag you in? Hell yeah, it drags you in. So I will give that a 100% yeah. We got The Running Man, which starts out like this. -100 and counting is the name of the chapter. She was squinting at the thermometer in the white light coming through the window. Beyond her, in the drizzle of the other high-rises in Co-op City Rose. Ladies and gentlemen, my brother just entered the room. Say hello, Batman Dragon.
Batman Dragon's here. And I'm here to let Jacob try some pork from Kroger's.
Oh my god, you get to see a fat guy eat some pork. It's really dry.
Well, yeah, it's just pork. There's no sauce, but ain't that delicious?
That's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, we're having that for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yes, that's going to be there till Thanksgiving.
Pork for Thanksgiving, okay.
Bye, everybody on YouTube.
See you, Jordan. He's going home now, so. She was squinting at the thermometer in the white light coming through the window. Beyond her, in the drizzle, the other high-rises in Co-op City rose like the gray turrets of a penitentiary below. In the airshaft, clotheslines flapped with ragged wash. Rats and plump alley cats circulated through the garbage. She looked at her husband. He was seated at the table, staring up at the free V and steady, vacant concentration. He had been watching it for weeks now. It wasn't like him. He hated it. Always had. Of course, every development apartment had one. It was the law. But it was still legal to turn them off. So, based on that little bit, no, it does not pull me in. But we all know that that's a really good story, especially watching a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But if you did not have any knowledge of this and you picked the book up and just read that little bit, would it be enough to still kind of grip you? For me, I don't think so. And also based on in the year 2025, the best men don't run for president, they run for their lives. That does kind of drag me in a little. So it would make me want to push and continue reading. But, ultimately, by pushing and reading on, it is worth the read. So, for that little bit of information, would you buy this book if you did not know Stephen King? For me personally, I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have rented it from a library or something like that, but ended up probably buying it later on after I actually read it. You know what I mean? What do you guys think? Leave me comments below. Next up, I wish I had a little bit more detail on this, is Christine. Now, when I first bought the book, obviously it came without a dust cover and all that stuff. It's a really, really nasty, it's got kind of stains all over it. It's just a bad copy of the book. But I got the book for a penny, so I was like, why not? But, yeah, I wish I had more detail on this book to show you the art and stuff. And I will be trying to update my collection. Hopefully get better books for you guys. But anyway, since I can't go on with the picture, if you saw this exact copy in the store and you're like, I wonder what this is. Christine by Stephen King. Let's see what this is about. And you turn the page, which thankfully it has the actual picture of what it looks like right there. Christine. So when I saw that, I would be like, wow, I really do like that art. So that kind of pulls you in. This book was written for George A. Romero and Chris Forrest Romero. Rest in peace, Mr. Romero. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. But we go to the prologue here. This is the story of a lover's triangle, I suppose you'd say. Arnie Cunningham, Leah Cabot, and of course, Christine. But I want you to understand that Christine was there first. She was Arnie's first love. And while I wouldn't presume to say for sure, not from whatever heights of wisdom I've attained in my 22 years anyway, I think she was his only true love. So I call what happened a tragedy. Now, right off the bat, that's the first paragraph into this story. It really pulls me in. I love that poetic writing there. I just think it's absolutely wonderful. Arnie and I grew up on the same block together, went to Owen Andrews Grammar School, and it goes into, a little bit of back history and stuff like that. And at the end it goes, and then he had Christine. Leah came later. I just wanted you to understand that. So this guy at the beginning, he's really trying to push that, listen guys, Arnie had Christine, which we all know is a car, before anybody else. That was his love. So, yeah. This book, what that little bit there, Was it enough to pull you in? 100%. That 100% pulls me in. And I was glad that I read that book because that book is absolutely amazing. I think, oh, I was going to push my luck there, but yeah, the next Stephen King book versus movie is going to be Christine. So make sure to watch out for that. And finally, the last book in the lineup, we have Stephen King's Different Seasons. Now, right off the bat, you see this in a store, and you see this whole watch falling into what looks like water or a mountaintop. Or it could just be the season where the guy's blowing the snow and it forms the ice. But, you know, you have your spring, your summer, but each picture is a dark, evil, twisted picture. Like the sun is pissed off, the moon is evil looking, the flower is dead, and, you know, so on and so forth. So yeah, just by that picture alone, yeah, it does kind of say, I wonder what this is about. Back of the book is a sweet picture of him, and I believe it was Owen, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that was Owen. It says 3 children, so yeah, I'm sure that was Owen. But yeah, this is a collection of 4. Wouldn't call them short stories. I would call them more novellas. But you got Hope Springs Eternal, Summer of Corruption, Fall from Innocence, A Winter's Tale. And that's actually really, really cool. But the Hope Springs Eternal story is Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, which we all know is a very classic. The Summer of Corruption was Apt Pupil, which was another great one. Fall from Innocence is The Body, which is an excellent story. And A Winter's Tale, a breathing method, which not a lot of people know that story. But let's read what the synopsis says. Is horror all you write? That's just talking about him. Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption, the most satisfying tale. Oh, these are just what other companies had said they were. So, alright, let's skip right into this, shall we? We got Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption. There's a guy like me in every state and federal prison in America, I guess. I'm the guy who can get it for you. Tailor-made cigarettes, a bag of reefer if you're partial to that, a bottle of brandy to celebrate your son or daughter's high school graduation, or almost anything else, within reason. That is, it wasn't always that way. I came to Shawshank when I was just 20, and I am one of the few people in our happy little family willing to own up to what they did. I committed murder. I put a large insurance policy on my wife, who was 3 years older than I was, and then I fixed the brakes of the Chevrolet Coupe her father had given us as a wedding present. It worked out exactly as I planned, except I hadn't planned on her stopping to pick up the neighbor woman and the neighbor woman's infant son on their way down Castle Hill and into town. The brakes let go, and the car crashed through the bushes at the edge of the town common, gathering speed. Bystanders said it must have been doing 50 or better when it hit the base of the Civil War statue and bursted into flames. With that, yes, I do 100% believe that it pulls you in. And I'm glad that it does, because it's such an excellent story that everyone should read. Or at least watch the movie, but reading is more better than watching the movies. But yeah, for me, it does pull me in. What do you guys think? In the comment section below, does that little bit pull you in? Now we got Apt Pupil, which is a very interesting story. He looked like the total all-American kid as he pedaled his 26-inch Schwinn with the Apanger handlebars up the residential suburban street. And that's just what he was, Todd Bowden, 13 years old, 5 feet 8, and a healthy 140 pounds. I wish I weighed that. I'm like 3 times that. Let's see what we got. Hair the color of a ripe corn, blue eyes, white even teeth, lightly tanned skin, marred but not even the first shadow of an adolescent's acne. He was smiling a summer vacation smile as he pedaled through the sun and shade not too far from his own house. He looked like the kind of kid who might have a paper route, and as a matter of fact, he did. He delivered the Santo Donato Clarion. But was that enough to pull you guys into the story? For me, no. I was a little bit bored just reading it, to be 100% honest. Apt Pupil is one of those really in-detailed kind of stories, and I found it really hard myself to actually break down and read the story, so I cheated and watched the video. But yeah, I'll probably get a thumbs down for that, and it is rightfully so. But that is my opinion. Was it enough to pull you in? No. Not me, anyway. What do you guys think? We got The Body. The most important things are the hardest things to say. There are the things you get ashamed of because words diminish them. Words shrink things that seemed limitless when they were in your head to no more than living size when they're brought out. But it's more than that, isn't it? The most important things lie too close to wherever your sacred heart is buried. Buried? I can't read today. Buried. Buried. Now I lost my way. And you may make revelations that cost you dearly, only to have people look at you in a funny way, not understanding what you've said at all or why you thought it was so important that you almost cried while you were saying it. That's the worst, I think. When the secret stays locked within, not for want of a teller, but for want of an understanding ear. I was 12 going on 13 when I first saw a dead human being. It happened in 1960, a long time ago, although sometimes it doesn't seem that long to me, especially on the nights I wake up from the dreams where the hail falls into his open eyes. Now that is poetry right there. That is really, really good writing. That pulled me in. When I first saw the human being, straight up for the very first sentence, the most important things are the hardest things to say. It's really, you can already tell that this is going to be one of those special stories. At least I think so. That's the impression that I get. Like, I'm reading this to you guys, and this is the first thing that's coming to me. But yes, that and the hail falling into his open eyes is just that little pinch of detail that really makes it a good story, I think. So, would that story catch you? Yes. Yes, it would. And then finally, we come to the breathing method, which is a very good story. We got Chapter 1, The Club. I dressed a bit more speedily than normal on that snowy, windy, bitter night. I admit, it was December 23rd, 1970, and I suspect that there was other members of the club who did the same. And I didn't pause there for, lack of stupidity or something. It literally says 1970 and then it dashes. Taxis are notoriously hard to come by in New York on stormy nights, so I called for a radio cab. I did this at 5:30 for an 8 o'clock pickup. My wife raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I was under the canopy of the apartment building on East 58th Street, where Ellen and I lived since 1946. By 7:45, and when the taxi was 5 minutes late, I found myself pacing up and down impatiently. Now, was that enough to really catch your guys' attention? To me, it's a little bit, but not so much. I believe that, you know, this is a story of a pregnant woman. So I believe I would have started off right off the bat letting people know that she was pregnant. But let's read on a little bit. The taxi arrived at 8:10 and I got in. Too glad to be out of the wind to be as angry with the driver as he probably deserved. That wind, part of a cold front that had swept down from Canada the day before, meant business. It whistled and whined around the cab's window, occasionally drowning out the salsa, the driver's radio, and rocking the big checker on its springs. Many of the stores were open, but the sidewalks were nearly bare of last-minute shoppers. Those that were abroad looked uncomfortable or actual pained. So me, I'm still not being dragged in. Like, this is really, really kind of dull for me. Like, I'm painting a white picture in my mind, and I'm already lost. So, yeah, this is a story about a pregnant woman, and I do believe if they would have started out something like that, you know, letting people know she was pregnant, they needed a taxi to, you know, what they needed the taxi for, stuff like that. I just think that it could have been done a little better. But Stephen King is the greatest. Don't think that I, you know, who am I to criticize the greatest writer on the planet? But, yeah, to me, it wasn't enough to pull me in. But I hope it was enough to pull you guys in, because it was such a good story. All these stories by Stephen King are so unique and so wonderful, even if the first paragraph doesn't really grab you. But that's the whole point of Stephen King previews, is the cover, the picture, the little tiny descriptions that they give, if they give it, the first few sentences. I'm going to read sentence longer because I'm no longer reading the ending, so that's what I've been doing. But what do you guys think? Which of these 3 books did you guys think won today's video? Me personally, Christine. I was more excited about Christine's intro, and if I would have had dust cover with that beautiful picture, the drawing design on it, it would have been hands down my choice for me. What do you guys think? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next video.